जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Om Vishubhad Paramahamsa Parivar Jagatacharya Ashatara Sata Sri Srimati His Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishubhad Paramahamsa Parivar Jagatacharya Ashatara Sata Sri Srimati His Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai Sri Sri Gaunitai Ki Jai Sri Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to the Sambhavatis, all glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Bhaksabhutare, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvesesha Sunyavadi Paschata Dilatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Skanda, 25th chapter, Shloka number 4. Sreyaha Tvam Katamat Rajan Karmana Atmanaha Ihase Dukkha Hanihi Sukha Avaptihi Sreyaha Tat Na Iha Cha Ishyate. Sreyastvam katamad rajan karmanatmana ihase dukkha hani sukhavapti sreyastanneha cheshyate. Sreyastvam katamad rajan karmanatmana ihase dukkha hani sukhavapti sreyastanneha cheshyate. Sri Sri Gaunitai ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai, Sri Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki jai. Sreyastvam katamadharajan karmanatmanai hase dukkha hani sukha bhaktihi sreyastanneha cheshyate. Vaishnavis, Sreyaha, ultimate benediction. Tvam, you. Katamat, what is that? Rajan, O king. Karmana, by fruitive activities. Atmanaha, of the soul. Ihase, you desire. Dukkha hanihi, disappearance of all distresses. Sukha avaptihi, attainment of all happiness. Sreyaha, benediction. Tat, that. Na, never. Iha, in this connection. Cha, and. Ishyate, is available. Translation. Narada Muni asked King Prachinarvarichat, my dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. Please repeat. Narada Muni asked King Prachina Barishat, "My dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities?" The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this material world, there is a great illusion which covers real intelligence. A man in a mode of passion wants to work very hard to derive some benefit, but he does not know that time will never allow him to enjoy anything permanently. Compared with the work one expends, the gain is not so profitable. Even if it is profitable, it is not without its distresses. If a man is not born rich and he wants to purchase a house, cars, and other material things, he has to work hard day and night for many years in order to possess them. Thus, happiness is not attained without undergoing some distress. Actually, pure happiness cannot be had within this material world. If we wish to enjoy something, we must suffer for something else. On the whole, suffering is the nature of this material world, and whatever enjoyment we are trying to achieve is simply illusion. After all, we have to suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. We may discover many fine medicines, but it is not possible to stop the sufferings of disease and death. Actually, medicine is not the counteracting agent for either disease or death. On the whole, there is no happiness in this material world, but an illusion person works very hard for so-called happiness. Indeed, this process of working hard and actually taken for happiness, this is called illusion. Therefore, Narada Muni asked King Prachina Barishat what he desired to attain by performing so many costly sacrifices. If one attains a heavenly planet, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. Someone may argue that even devotees have to undergo many distresses in executing austerities and penances connected with devotional service. Of course, for the neophytes, the routine of devotional service may be very painful. But at least they have the hope that they will ultimately be able to avoid all kinds of distresses and achieve the highest perfectional stage of happiness. For the common karmis, there is no such hope, because even if they are promoted to the higher planetary systems, they are not guaranteed freedom from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Even Lord Brahma, who is situated in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, has to die. Lord Brahma's birth and death may be different from any ordinary man's, but within this material world, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. If one is at all serious about attaining liberation from these miseries, he must take to devotional service. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 9th sloka. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti surjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Thus, after attaining full Krishna consciousness, the devotee does not return to this material world after death. He goes back home, back to Godhead. That is a perfect stage of happiness, unblemished by any trace of distress. Om Ajnanativilantasya Jnananjana Sadakaya Chakshuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitansya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneswari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This sloka is spoken by Narada Muni to King Prachina Bharishat. It was seen earlier how King Prachina Bharishat took his appearance from the Vamsa family of Dhruva Maharaj, and he begot 10 sons called the Prachetas. So the previous chapter was about the instruction given by Lord Shiva to the Prachetas. This new chapter, chapter 25, entitled The Characteristics of King Puranjana. This chapter is devoted to the instructions given by Narada Muni to King Prachina Bharishat, the father of the Prachetas. Prachetas already obeyed the order of their father and went to perform tapasya for 10,000 years in the ocean, following the instruction of Lord Shiva to constantly recite the Rudra Stotra, prayers offered by Lord Rudra to Lord Narayana. Now, in this chapter, we shall see how Narada Muni is instructing King Prachina Bharishat also in the matter of Krishna consciousness. The king is certainly very responsible. He has to maintain his kingdom. He has to keep all the citizens happy. And he has to control the foes, the adversary, or the enemies of the kingdom. He has, in this way, a lot of endeavor. And for the sake of the people in general, he has to be very exemplary in his conduct. Yad yada charati sreshtas tatta devetaro janaha. Whatever a man like a king or very great personality, famous, does, that will be an example for everyone else to follow. So this is generally in this material world what people are doing. They see who is most famous, like they may be attracted to some cinema star, and they will see what he is doing and they'll be inclined to do the same also. Uh, the king is certainly at the top of all population, and he is the focus of everyone. Everybody wants to see what the king is doing, what he is teaching, and so on. So if the king is not exemplary, that will be a great calamity. Already in the family of Dhruva, such kings were there. They were not exemplary, and they were removed from the post of king. That happens. The Brahmanas are actually controlling the monarchical system. It is not like a dictatorship. Dictatorship is different from monarchy. It is a single individual somehow. He takes power by force or by trick, and he assumes power, absolute power, and he is ruling the whole kingdom by himself. Of course, he is appointing some ministers and associates, but nobody is above him. That is dictatorship. So as it is said that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is the famous saying. In a dictator is absolute power, therefore he is certainly a victim of absolute corruption. But in the monarchy of divine right, the Brahmanas or the priests are controlling the king. They are advising the king in all matters, especially in religious and spiritual matters that are so essential. The Brahmanas are guiding the king, just like when the Pandavas and even the Kauravas were ruling this Bharat Varsha. They were always accompanied by Brahmanas. Even in their exile to the forest, the Pandavas were also in association with the Brahmanas. They were together working in the forest, undergoing this type of austerity. They were never at any time disassociated from the spiritual power. And many times Narada Muni came to visit the Pandavas, and Lord Krishna came to visit them, and Srila Vedavyas also came to see the Pandavas, what they are doing, giving them advice how to go forward in this Vanavas, and later on how to assume their responsibilities as far as possible. So they were always under advice of superior intelligence and religious power. That is the system in monarchy, although they are considered to be on the top of the society, but above them is the Brahminical advice. Even in the England, the monarch or the king or the queen always they were enthroned by the priests of the Protestant church, and they were always in touch with the church for any important matter. So that is the system. And here we see that Prachina Barishat is a monarch in the traditional sense, and he has to take advice from the devotees of the Lord or from the Brahmanas who are in his association. Now here in this example, Narada Muni is not a constant associate of Prachina Barishat, but sometimes because he is always traveling from one planet to another, up and down. And whenever there is some opportunity, he comes and gives advice on a very important matter. That is the great activity of Narada Muni. He is constantly preaching Krishna consciousness throughout the three worlds. So he is the ideal preacher. So he came to know about the activities of King Prachina Barishat, and he could understand that this king is very pious, and he is not perfect in his spiritual life in the sense that he is engaged in yagyas. No doubt, a king must perform yagyas. Even talking about the Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj also performed yagyas, just like Aswamedha Yagya and Rajasuya Yagya. That was performed by King Yudhishthira. But Yudhishthira made it known to everyone. What is the purpose of this Rajasuya Yagya? To establish Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was the main purpose. Not just simply having Agni, Hotra, and pouring ingredients in the fire, and as a matter of self-glorification, to become very famous. No, Rajasuya. That was the intention of Yudhishthira, was to establish Lord Krishna. So, but Prachina Barishat had the intention to perform these yagyas for the sake of material benefit. This is not the perfection of yagya. Yagya should be only for the sake of Krishna. But if one performs yagya for some material motive, then that will not be the perfection. And Narada Muni was very much concerned with this, that he is a great king, very important for Bharatvarsha, and now he is engaged in all types of yagyas just for some economic gain. Of course, it is based on dharma, not ordinary work. What King Prachina Barishat is different from ordinary, mundane, fruitive work. It is to perform yagya for some material motive. Yagya is the basis. Dharma is the basis. But if dharma is only meant for artha, then that is not perfection. That is what Narada Muni wanted to instruct King Prachina Barishit. You are doing very good. You are doing yagya. Yes, a king should perform yagyas. But what is the objective of yagya? That should be very clearly understood. It should be done for the sake of Yagyapati, Lord Krishna, Narayana. He is the Yagyapati. For his pleasure only, yagya should be performed, not for any other motivation. So there are different levels of religious or moral understanding. Just like some time back in India, there was a very, everywhere we could hear this slogan that work is worship. Now we don't hear so much, but the policy is still going on. But the slogan is not repeated as much as before. But some 50 years ago, it was very prominent that work is worship. So I remember that Achyutananda Swami giving his lectures in the public, he was analyzing what is this slogan. Government policy is work is worship. Work for Krishna is worship. Otherwise, how work can be called worship? Worship of who? Who is worship by simply working? You are working, everybody is working for material benefit. So who is the person who is worshipped? Nobody is worshipped. Myself is getting prominence. Not so he was telling like that. And the people were listening very carefully. That work is worship, that type of slogan is nonsense. Clearly, he was not trying to make some type of compromise. Nonsense. Work for Krishna is worship. That should be the slogan of the government. The king, whoever is in power, should establish that formula. Work for Krishna. That is the real worship, and that is the end of life. So in this way, Narada Muni now is approaching Prachina Barishat with a similar idea that he is asking the question, what is it that you are trying to achieve? You are engaged in organizing these yagyas, very costly. It takes a lot of money and resources. When Yudhishthira Maharaj was planning to have these yagyas, he sent all the other brothers in different directions, north, south, east, west. In this way, the four other Pandavas went everywhere and brought their collections. In this way, yagya was made possible. So it is not a cheap affair. It is very costly, and it takes a lot of endeavor. Anyway, there should be a good purpose. If you do something with a lot of endeavor and resources, it should have a very high level of achievement, not ordinary work. So that is question here Narada Muni is asking. What for you are doing all these yagyas? What are you trying to achieve? What is the Shreya? These two words are there, Preya, Shreya. Preya means immediate achievement, immediate result. Shreya means ultimate result. So in the Vedic literature, especially you take Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the importance is given to Shreya, not Preya. And we should not mistake that Preya is also Shreya. No, that is a very big mistake. Those who do not understand the difference between Preya and Shreya, they cannot lead a fruitful life. They'll be, every day of their life, will be busy in working, collecting, eating, sleeping. That's all, nothing else. And they think that this is life, and there is nothing else in life. So where is the Shreya? For them, there is no Shreya. Preya is Shreya, that is same. Life is day-to-day life. We have to maintain ourselves and family members. That is life. There is nothing more, nothing higher than that. That is the conception of most of the population, especially in this age of Kali, where there is a lack of spiritual education. So Narada Muni in this way is asking this question, what for you are doing? And he is giving the indication, the answer to that. The Shreya, what is Shreya? The Shreya is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. That is permanent happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. In other words, what King Prachina Barishat was doing is something very temporary, which is not of a high value. It's not Shreya. It is only Preya. immediate result. He'll become famous, oh, he's such a great king, and people will come and they'll give their tax. They'll be confident that the king is doing best of his ability. He may get some good reputation like that, but that is not the ultimate. That is not Sreya. How long a person can remain as king? No? How long? Of course, earlier the kings were living in Kali Yuga, in the Satya Yuga, 1 lakh year. So a king may be for 10,000, 20,000 years, he may be a king. Just like Lord Ramchandra, he is not ordinary king, but he ruled his kingdom, Ayodhya, 11,000 years. So that is Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga maximum lifetime is 10,000 years. But Lord Ramchandra ruled for 11,000 years. So more than the average lifespan. In Kali Yuga, of course, maximum duration of life is 100 years, and one may be a head of state, maybe 10 years, 20 years, not more than that. Not more than that. When Srila Prabhupada came to Russia, he was analyzing the political system in Russia at that time, communist regime, and he could understand that this country is ruled by dictatorship, and his judgment was that, seeing what is happening in Russia, this regime will not last more than 10 years. And exactly, that was in 1971, exactly in 1981, no, sorry, he said 15 years. He gave 15 years time. So exactly in 1986, there was a complete change of government in Russia, and some type of democratic system was established 1986 by Gorbachev. So anyway, this type of dictatorship cannot last. So even a very good king cannot last for so long. So what is the use of performing temporary, even religious activities for some temporary benefit? The king should go for higher goal to establish what is permanent. He may be king now, somebody else will replace him, succession will be there. So there will be a tradition in this way. If the king is engaged in spiritual activities, certainly that will be a good example for everyone at that time and for the next king in this dynasty. Sometime this Srila Prabhupada was also giving lecture in Paris, in France. There they have the idea that there are some great heroes. One great hero is Napoleon. Beginning of 19th century, Napoleon achieved power in France. He became the dictator. And he was very powerful soldier, warrior. And he started to gather a powerful army. And he went to the eastern side, Germany, and he came to Russia. In this way, he started to conquer different countries. So even though he was defeated at the end, but the French people, they are considering, oh, he's a great hero. Even now to this day, he is celebrated as a great hero. And Prabhupada in his lecture, he mentioned that Napoleon, he did many things, he achieved many things, but for how long? Where is Napoleon now? And where are these achievements? All these countries that had been conquered by Napoleon, they are lost. They did not become permanently under the French government. After a few years, everything was lost. So all these great empires, where are they now? Where is the Roman Empire? Where is the Greek Empire? Where is the Persian Empire? All these big empires, they were lost. And the dictators are only from the pages of history, because we have to learn history in school. So we understand, at that time, there was a big dictator. So like that, their names are only in the page of history, but no permanent benefit. So Narada Muni is only after permanent benefit. What is the benefit of your yagyas you are doing? You cannot get rid of these distresses. You cannot get permanent happiness. That should be the Sreya. That should be the goal in your life. Just try to understand. If you want to be a perfect king, ideal king, you have to pursue spiritual activities in this way as an example for people in general. So this is the very important instruction. Narada Muni is not wasting his time in giving some political advice. For that, many other people are there. He is a one in his category, traveling everywhere, giving only spiritual advice to those who are willing to hear. That is the wonder of Narada Muni. So here he will enlighten King Prachina Barishat in this Sreya, spiritual benefits, completely trying to avoid the miseries of life and trying to achieve permanent happiness in this life. Not only this life, but next life, and going back home, back to Godhead. That is the instruction that will be given by Narada Muni. In the purport to this sloka, Srila Prabhupada explains that the contemporary society, they are very proud of their scientific advancement. They consider that this modern society is very advanced because of the advancement of science. And science has given us so many facilities to live happily, so-called happiness. And in the field of medicine, for instance, Prabhupada mentions so many advancements in the field of treating the patients, and disease has been invented and be given to the public at large by the medical fraternity. So, of course, earlier there was also medicine. Ayurvedic medicine has been here in Bharatvarsha from the very beginning of civilization. But now we are very proud of modern medicines. But of course, modern medicines only have a limited efficacy. It may work, it may not work. There is no guarantee. Of course, the doctors will say, definitely take this medicine, within 2 weeks you will be cured. But that is some type of propaganda. They have to tell something to the patient so that he will be somewhat peaceful and the doctor will be getting his remuneration at that time. Otherwise, there will not be any favorable result for him. So medicine may work, may not work. There is no guarantee. And even if it works, you cure a disease, another disease will come. Again, you have to go to a doctor. And ultimately, old age is there. There is no remedy for old age. And then finally, death. There is no remedy for death. Everybody has to die. That is the law of nature. That is the law of God. So in this way, as the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha nudarshanam. These miseries of life are there for everybody. There is no remedy. The only remedy is if we can avoid taking birth again. As long as we are repeatedly taking birth again and again in the material world, these four miseries will be there to accompany us in our journey. So this is a miserable journey. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi. For which there is no remedy. No amount of medical treatment, no amount of even these yagyas, they don't offer any permanent solution. Therefore, Narada Muni says that why don't you try to find a permanent solution? And permanent happiness. What happiness can we derive here in this material world? That is very temporary. We see sometimes the student is very happy. He has succeeded in his examination. He passed his degree. So he'll be very happy. He'll be celebrated. He'll have in a family, they'll have some celebration like that. Or birthday ceremony, marriage ceremony. Everybody, all the family members and friends, they will gather. And on one day, in this way, they will rejoice. They'll have a feast. Next day, or even just after that, they have to go out and they have to resume their miserable activities. So this is a very, very flickering type of happiness. Just the senses coming in contact with the sense objects. That is the meaning of material happiness as described in the Shastras. Flickering. I see something beautiful, I feel happiness. I turn my eyes in different direction, something else. I forget what I've said earlier. Tasting some nice food, I feel happiness. Tongue, like that. Hearing some beautiful music, I feel happiness. So all these are temporary states of mind, which are not the goal of life. It is the natural propensity. As soon as we enter into a particular body, happiness and distress are already planned from very birth, from the birth itself. Happiness and distress is already calculated. You will live so many years and you will enjoy and you will be also feeling misery. Everything is planned in advance. There is no question of counteracting, no question of making any solution to the problems of life by material calculation and enterprise. So therefore, Narada Muni is giving this advice to King Prachina Parishad that in order to get rid of all miseries and achieve permanent happiness, you have to come to the spiritual platform. And Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Bhagavad Gita Janma karma chame divyam evam yo viti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti Arjuna. We have to get rid of this process of birth. And that is possible by understanding Krishna. Janma karma shame divyam. If we understand that the appearance of Lord Krishna and the activities of Lord Krishna are transcendental, purely spiritual, nothing to do with this material world. Lord Krishna comes out of his own will, as explained earlier in the first chapter, how Lord Krishna comes, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Srijamyaham. Only Krishna is coming out of his own potency. We don't decide our birth. We are forced to take birth. We don't choose our family. We don't choose our surrounding. We are forced to appear in a particular family, surrounding, and so on. Lord Krishna, Srijamyaham, he appears by his own will. And another meaning, by his own mercy. Out of mercy only, Lord Krishna comes to establish Dharma and to conquer over all the enemies of Dharma and to protect the devotees of the Lord. This is karma. Janma karma chame divyam. So a person who understands, truly speaking, that this is the appearance and activities of Lord Krishna are transcendental. I have to fix my mind. I have to understand properly, tattvataha, truthfully. For that purpose, I have to approach a spiritual master. Reading books may not be sufficient. We can get some idea reading, but by approaching a spiritual master, a Vaishnava guru, then he will have the proper information and also the way to achieve Krishna consciousness, how to perform, how to engage in spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. That advice, that instruction will be given by the spiritual master, just as Narada Muni is instructing personally King Prachina Barishat. So this is everyone's life responsibility to approach a spiritual master so that we may become enlightened in Janma Karma, Chame Divyam, the activity and appearance of Lord Krishna. We should fix our mind on there, trying to understand very properly and trying to serve the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and the spiritual master, spending our life in this manner and achieving success and Sreya, ultimate goal of life. So that will be the theme of this chapter. Any other questions or comments? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.